Good evening. We are here today at Sebring International Raceway here for the RISA GT3 Championship on iRacing. Welcome everyone here. My name is Anthony. I'm here tonight with my co-host Xander Clemens here. Xander, what do you think of today's race and what are we expected to see? What kind of action we're going to get?
Well, the nice part is, Anthony, we've already seen a little bit of the racing here before in some of the non-broadcasted fun races that AsIMRacing has put together in the iRacing group. We've actually taken these GT3 cars to Sebring and raced a couple times, so I have a bit of an idea of who we should expect to be fast. One thing to note here that we saw a little bit last week at Spa-Francorchamps as well is, the balance of power that has kind of made it seem, at least the perception giving, that the fastest car of the variety selection right now is the Mercedes-AMG GT3. That's what the majority of guys are running. So with everyone on that same car, it seems a little bit less of an open class. It should be a little more down to solely the driver and the setup that they've got on it. But got a couple Ferraris out here. But again, Anthony, the fact that we've already seen racing at this racetrack before should give us a good idea of where we should expect some major passing zones. Right now, we're watching down the long back straightaway. That is a huge passing opportunity with a lot of draft, so you could see quite a few key passes here tonight. And following this next corner, the front stretch down to turn number 1 as well.
Definitely, you bring up a great point here, passing zones and whatnot. Turn 17 here is a turn where you can go at it with many different lines here, so long as you're careful through the bumps. The bumps there are very, very challenging here, as you need to be careful when to apply the throttle. If not, you will spin out. So it's definitely a track where most drivers need to keep an eye on, especially given that they all have nearly the same car, the AMG GT3, but there's a few differences here. The differentiating factor being setup. He who has the best setup will end up being on top, or one of the more drivers on top. But nonetheless, we're going to see who ends up being the winners here in races 1 and 2. So as we follow here, Alessandro Di Tullio looks like, or excuse me, not Di Tullio, who is that driver we're looking at right now? Currently on the leaderboard is Luke Vahola here, Luke in the AMG as well. And let's see, there's the graphic. Yes, confirmed it is Di Tullio. He has switched to the Ferrari instead of the Mercedes.
Alessandro Di Tullio was up front in both of the fun races here that I got to see with the RISA iRacing series before we officially launched this GT3 championship. He's, of course, was our runner-up from the opening round of the season last week at Spa-Francorchamps. And like you mentioned, Anthony making the change to the Ferrari machine. I don't know how big of a difference it is. I will say, as you mentioned, the setup is a huge deal. Definitely a whole lot more than which car you're on. So he may have just found a bit of a better setup to work the Ferrari this week. There's a lot of really cool resources online where you can find some iRacing setups, and so a couple guys now that are getting more and more into the sim during this downtime we have in the real racing world. We should see the gap start to close as more guys find those setups, and again, I have to guess that's probably the biggest reason why we see Di Tullio behind the wheel of a Ferrari 488 this week.
Definitely 100%. So as we're following Di Tullio here, but actually before I get into what we're going to say, setup is important. That's right, I was having a chat with him earlier today, and he's actually struggling currently right now as we speak, trying to figure out how to stabilize the rear. So as he does that, let's go ahead and follow him through a lap through Sebring of what can we expect. We're going to turn 1 right now. So depending on the car, so it's one of those commit or not turns here. You want to be pretty much near flat out, if anything. Coming here into turns 2, 3, and 4. This next turn here, you want to make sure you line it up carefully, as they have a long straightaway to carry you into turn 7. 7 hotel as well, with that nice view there. Drivers go hard into the braking zone here, carrying into turn 7. There's another pivotal turn here as well, as there's a bit of a long straightaway right afterwards. Xander, you've had some experience as well. Why don't you talk for the rest of the lap here, see what else we can learn from the onboard here with Di Tullio.
Yeah, we're going into the first of 2 good braking right-hand corners here. You have to get a good exit, then you're full back on the gas as we swing out to the right-hand side of the track. We'll quickly go through this little dog leg. Again, not too much of a passing opportunity there, but that concrete patch you went through, like Anthony mentioned in the final corner, turn 17, it's equally rough here. This is a track that's like racing on seashells, so across the board you start to see that cockpit bounce up and down a little bit. This S's section is really crucial in terms of putting a good lap together. You're going to see the Tulio swing across the white line, get really wide for this final right-hander. This is a long back straightaway, the longest straightaway on the racetrack. He's got to get a good launch to set up either a potential pass or, in this case here for practice, a good lap as he's going to go all the way up through the gearbox and then back down either to third or fourth gear here. We'll get a good idea as he gets into the corner, maybe even drop into second, depending on the gear ratio they've got, but he's going to keep it in third. He'll go low there. Some guys may run a little wider through the center of the corner, but he'll come across the line, back up to the top of the gearbox once again towards turn number 1. And that, my friends, is a lap here at Sebring International Raceway. And that one was purple, just went to the top of the boards, Anthony, by 2.5 tenths. So we got to see the hottest lap set so far.
It's a privilege there. Got to see a good old purple lap. Now let's see what happens throughout the rest of the session here. Bit of a premature celebration there as the Tulio spins off, going off into turn, I believe that was 5. Now, see what else we can find here. Let's go through and see who else is in the race today. Let's go through some drivers. So behind the Tulio currently right now is Mackenzie Farah. Mackenzie recently participating in the, or briefly rather, in the Miata Championship. Got to see him or her in 1 or 2 races. Good to see him back in the GT3 category.
Yeah, tonight should be Mackenzie Farah's first start in the championship as we work our way further back. Here is the architect of the AsIMRacing iRacing Series Championship, Rudy Ramsaroop. Rudy will be in and out of the broadcast booth here with us, and let's see if we can see how he's doing right now as he works his way across the start-finish line. Don't want to put too much pressure on the boss man. Of course, a huge kudos here to Rudy to put myself and Anthony and Jose Cabrera behind the cameras here tonight, making this whole show work. His son Rohan is up in race control as well. So we got a full team here tonight, and all of that really goes back to this guy here, and he's just having a blast racing some of these young kids. One of them going around just in front of it's Anthony Rand, and that's to be expected, Anthony. We've still got a lot of time left here in this opening practice session, a little bit over 17 minutes left. And we'll surely see quite a few spins as well in qualifying. A tricky racetrack with a lot of bumps, and depending on your brake bias, with as many braking zones as we have, that rear end can step out from underneath you pretty easily like it did for Anthony.
Definitely looks like Anthony's going to do some work on the setup to do here, as the Mercedes is definitely one of the more stable cars here in the fleet as well. Let's see who else we can find. See, now we're following Jose Carlos Hernandez, another fellow kart racer here. The field is mostly stacked of fellow local karting racers, whether they're from Team Ryza or not. Definitely most of the people here have some sort of racing experience. Great to see how they can apply it tonight in the virtual world. So we ride here with Juan Carlos here in the cockpit, driving here in the Mercedes GT3 AMG. See who else we can find as well on the list here. Let's get a little bit of a spotlight for everybody. Francisco Croatia. I don't know if I know a little too little about him. I don't know if you know, or he might be one of the drivers from El Salvador, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, not part of my my background, but one of the cool things about the AsIMRacing racing team and enterprise as a whole is it encompasses even more than just the lone aspect of motorsport that is karting. Of course, you have the AsIMRacing MX-5 teams that, or the Spec Miata race teams that compete in the Champ Car Endurance Championship across the country. There's a number of AsIMRacing family members who just do track days as well. So we've got a whole lot of different names here. We're watching Eduardo Pecorini. As he works his way around the racetrack, he'll go into the hard-braking left-hand corner here. Another driver, like I said, not someone I'm too familiar with, but he's doing pretty good for himself. P8 right now here in practice. I do recognize a couple names just ahead of him to note, though. Bobby Ross currently sits 6th as one of your AMR Motorplex local racers with the AsIMRacing team. Here's Mo Fittipaldi Jr., who was very fast in one of the fun races at Sebring, and little Mo should be one to watch. He hasn't laid down a lap to put himself on the boards just yet, but he could be working one right now, so we'll see what he can do here at Sebring. Again, a driver who has been very fast and is also one of the younger drivers on the grid. I believe young Mo is just turning 12 years old this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Emma being one of the fastest drivers for sure. Top of the leaderboard yesterday in our official practice session, and top in some of the other GT racers that I've had the pleasure of racing against him with. He's definitely going to be one of the stronger contenders here tonight. Let's see. Now we join Frankie Barroso, the 2019 AMR Motorplex Karting Challenge LO206 Senior Champion. So, let's see what Frankie can do here, as well as he rides in again the Mercedes-AMG GT3. Currently, let's see who else is going to be around him. We have, I believe, an Iglesias behind him. That might be Pedro, or no, we're going to be looking at Bobby Ross here. Bobby, let's see what he's up to. He's going into turn 17 right now. See what kind of line he takes. He takes a wide line going into turn 17. Comes out of it pretty good, though. Now we have him fighting on the straightaway here, trying to start his lap again, where he's on the leaderboard. That puts him into 6th place here. Solid moving ahead on the leaderboard for Bobby.
Bobby Ross is one of the most positive racers that you can talk to. He's got a great attitude about the whole sport and about you know, the iRacing races as well that he's been taking a part of. So it's always really cool and refreshing to have Bobby. He's one of the first drivers here. I've joined the official Discord. I'd love to get a chance to pull him in here when he gets a second to head off the racetrack during the opening practice session and talk to him about his thoughts here for the night and how he's feeling so far at round number 2, the early part here of this iRysa iRacing GT3 season. We're seeing the track get quite a bit more cluttered now as Bobby starts to look down the inside of one driver there going into the hairpin. He's got about 5 or so ahead of him, running in somewhat of a pack, so you can ride on board Bobby here in the catbird seat just behind a train. And he might be able to pick up a couple things because he hasn't bumped back to 7th. I believe Francisco Cresa was the driver who moved forward, if not Pecorini maybe. So right now, Alessandro Tullio still sits on top of the board, but things behind him starting to shift around a little bit as more drivers get to put laps in. And since I was given a little bit of a note before the broadcast to give some extra shout-outs to him, Rudy Ramsaroo, solid so far, only 8.3 seconds off Anthony. He's not 9 seconds off, so he's closer to where you would expect to be.
I believe Rudy's always a little too harsh on himself, saying he's one of the slower guys, but I will say something, though. He's one of the more consistent drivers here. Rudy easily getting anywhere between 5 to 10 spots ahead at the outcome of a race here in the iRysa series, whether it be the Miata or the GT3. He's one of the more consistent drivers here, avoiding as many wrecks as possible. It's definitely one of the key factors here for getting ahead and also winning in some of these iRacing races is to just keep the car clean. Any incidents and whatnot, especially tonight where we've kept the incident points a little stricter. Keeping that car incident free was definitely going to be one of the key factors here just to winning tonight's race. Let's see who else are we going to follow here on the practice session here, as we have, how many, we have about 12 minutes left. Franco blue here in one of his lime green cars. Franco, Valentino Rossi, super fan here. Always trying to support him as much as he can, and he has with that bright yellow neon Mercedes. Let's see what he's got here. Currently he is 14th on the leaderboard here. It's definitely one of those drivers that has hidden potential here, and we saw that this year in the winter series as he won, forgive me here, one of the rounds here in the LO206 Ignite series. Trying to pass it along tonight here for the iRysa GT3 series. Now we follow Tullio once again as he gets rear-ended by Anthony Rand here. That's a bit of an unfortunate incident. Luckily here for iRacing, that may not be the case in real racing. We have the infamous reset button here. He just goes back to the pits here and starts over again. May lose his hot lap and have to do another out lap, but at least he won't have millions of dollars in damage on his plate like some drivers have in real life in the past. Jose Carlos as well goes off into the dirt as well, and he does his reset button. Who else is, let's see if we can find someone that's laying down some solid laps instead of hitting reset buttons. Go and see who else we follow. Lupohola. Lupohola is one of the international drivers that iRysa has the pleasure of having in their family. Luke driving today from Trinidad. Definitely some commitment here to be able to join us tonight in virtual Sebring here. And going back to over what we were talking about, I think Francisco and Eduardo, yes, I believe if I remember correctly, I was told by Rudy that they are from El Salvador. And we have some other drivers as well, I think from Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see as we get the names on board. I'll try to remember who they are. Interestingly enough, Francisco, if I remember correctly, he has his sim rig attached to an old karting chassis, so pretty innovative of him to be driving on that tonight. Let's see who else we can find. We have plenty of drivers here on the field tonight, upwards pushing our mid-20s here. Plethora of amount of drivers as we see Juan Arenas doing some very strange snap oversteer going into some of, I believe, turn 14 in the back there. Juan, one of the more experienced real drivers here on the grid. Juan has driven plenty of cars ranging from shifter cars to Formula BMWs.
Yeah, Juan Sebastian Arenas has a good bit of racing background. He has been up and down so far in the Raceway iRacing series, but he has got a lot of speed and he's shown it at different points throughout the championships we've hosted and the different races. Looks like he's waiting to maybe try and get lined up with a couple fast guys as we follow Diego Iglesias, who is definitely one of those guys. 201.091. Holds him 2.5 tenths off Alessandro De Tullio. He set that lap pretty early here in the preliminary practice session, working on a few burners right now. We'll see what he can get down to, as behind him it's changed up just a little bit. We've seen Franco Sapullo, as you mentioned, he's jumped into the top 10, and the times are starting to close down at once. You can be 2 to 2.5 seconds off and be 6th or 8th. That 2-second delta has now gone all the way back to 10th place. So more drivers joining the session, the competition stepping it up. And again, just even all the way through the top 20, I was giving Rudy Ramsrup a little bit of extra nudge there, and he's knocked the time down and shut me up. He's knocked it down to 5.1 seconds, shaved a 3.5-second delta off where he was. He's only moved up 1 spot because of it, but he runs ahead of Ariel Castro, who runs a little further back, and Ariel and Rudy, of course, two patriarchs of some major karting organizations here in South Florida. So royalty that some of these guys are outpacing at the moment. But again, we're just talking about practice, Anthony. We haven't even gotten to the 5-lap qualifying session yet, where we really see how everyone stacks up.
Buddy, qualifying coming up in about 8 minutes, so to say. Here we're following Eduardo again. Eduardo, one of the late bloomers here in the iRysa series overall. Eduardo being one of the stronger contenders in the Miata series towards the end of the last 2 races here. And as I'm looking here on my screen, we have here an RC Anderson gracing our presence here, starting to connect here to the iRacing server. RC, your last week's winner here in the round 1 of the GT3 series in Spa-Francorchamps here. Let's see what RC Anderson can start to do as we get situated into the server here to start pulling some laps in practice here. Now, who else are we following on the screen right now? Emo Fittipaldi, I think we've already seen what he's got. Emo is currently on board when, I believe, if I'm seeing this correctly, 22nd, pretty low for Emo here. I'm sure he had some incidents. Let's see what happens as practice starts to wrap up, if he gets an even faster lap going in. Let's see if we can get someone else on board on the screen here. Someone new that we haven't seen yet.
One driver I'd actually like to see here before we finish practice, Anthony. I'm not sure if you've got the power to pull him into our broadcast booth. Bobby Ross, he's one of the guys who has hopped onto the Raceway iRacing voice channel, and he's sitting in the pit lane here waiting for a quick chat. If we can get him to come on down, that would be really cool. Bobby, again, like I mentioned, one of the positive guys here. I'd like to get his thoughts because he's sitting pretty right now, P7 at the moment, going into qualifying.
I'll bring him in over right now. Let's see. Bobby, Anthony, you got a copy?
10-4.
I'm hearing you're talking also in the iRacing chat. You don't need to. You just can just talk to us here normally.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Alright, let me just
You don't have to hold.
chat on that side. My bad.
Oh no, I see you have you don't have push to talk on, but whatever, we can fix that later. So, anyways, what are your thoughts on today's race and whatnot? What are you expected to see? How's the car?
So far, the car's doing pretty good. Right now, I'm 7th place out of, like, I think 30 cars, so yeah, not too bad overall.
Yeah, it's
Cool,
got to
cool.
give you a good bit of confidence to come in to the practice here. Obviously, you're not maybe as close as you'd like to be with the likes of the young kids like Alessandro De Tullio, but Bobby, like you mentioned, 7th out of 30-something cars is nothing to hold your head down about, and it should hold up pretty good if you can match that pace again in qualifying. How confident do you feel about being able to rip the same lap over and over so far here at Sebring? This is a long track, a lot of corners, a lot of places to make mistakes at.
And I know you're right. It's about 2 minutes and 5 seconds about on average, so in about 2.7 seconds. So overall, I'm able to do a consistent lap time. Like you said, it's very demanding that I have to be consistent. I have to be clean throughout the whole lap. Because if you mess up once, it's over. But yeah, so far I'm able to hang out on my own.
And Bobby, we like to have a little bit of friendly ribbon here on the Rysa Racing chat as well. I know you know a couple guys here in this race. Do you look at your friends that you know as more of buddies that you know are going to race you clean, or guys that you would actually expect to probably run you a little harder? I mean, there's a couple guys in here who like to get a little wild out on the go-kart track.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I see 'em, I'd say half and half. There's a good half of them, or a good portion of them that are gonna race clean. But the other half, I'm worried about going into turn 1 with them at the start.
It may get a little bit wild though, Bobby, but we appreciate your time, buddy. Want to wish you the best of luck here as we set up for qualifying in just about 5 minutes.
Awesome, guys. Keep up the good work with the live streaming and everything. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. That was great. Solid feedback there. Good questions here. Now let's see who else can we see on board here. Got a bit of a slow car here going to 17 here. Oh, nearly hits him as well. I think that might have been Emil Fittipaldi Jr.
Mo Fittipaldi Jr. just went up to second while we were talking to Bobby here in the final few minutes of this session. 14 thousandths of a second off Alessandro De Tullio. That was a major improvement here in the final bit of this session. Also to Francisco Cresa, who has jumped up late. He's from El Salvador, only a 10.5 off De Tullio, so that gap to the leader now first to fourth, 2.5 tenths of a second. We could see a very close race here. The drivers, again, all saw R.C. Anderson pull an 11-plus second lead in the short doubleheader we had at Spa-Francorchamps last week. And I have to imagine they went to work, did their homework on the setups, and every bit of testing they could. We could see a very close pair of races here tonight with race 1 and race 2 coming up later on. Much closer than what we saw for the opening round of the GT Championship.
Now we follow Javier Delgado here, one of the drivers here, learning the ropes in iRacing, one of the newer drivers here as well. Javier trying to keep up with the pace here. Definitely one of the more promising drivers here to keep an eye on, see how his progresses throughout the series. Let's see what other drivers can we find on the field. Let's see what else. Anthony ran again, and Anthony spotting a beautiful livery here, identical to his real life go-kart as well. Livery designed by myself, and it's definitely one of the nicer liveries here in the field.
Yeah, very nice looking race car here as he works his way down to turn number 17. We're just coming up, Anthony, on about 2 minutes to go here in final practice. Alessandro De Tullio has upped the pace just a couple hundredths now to put himself a little bit further from Mo Fittipaldi Jr. We still see the rest of the field behind him starting to shake up for the first time into the top 10. I see young Matias Orjuela, again, one of the younger drivers here, not even 11 years old yet, I believe, for Matias. He is P8 at the moment, splits up Bobby Ross and fellow junior kart racer Jordan Hernandez right now in the 7th spot. And then ahead of them, one driver we mentioned quite a bit because he's been in it from the beginning of the session, Luca Bola, one of the many Trinidad drivers here representing the island country. He is 6th. And then, of course, we have Mr. Pecorini. That is Eduardo Pecorini rounding the top 5 behind Diego Iglesias, who hails from El Salvador. So 2 El Salvadorians right now looking pretty good between Francisco Cresa and Diego Iglesias, 3rd and 4th. And right now we're watching Miami-based race car driver here, Ariel Castro, again of AsIMRacing Engines and the AsIMRacing team. And he's a little bit further behind when you consider the delta from himself to one of his main drivers in Alessandro De Tullio from 1st to 23rd. But old Ariel is a wily veteran just like Rudy, and he knows how to make up for a lack of pace with an excess of racecraft. So watch for Ariel Castro, even if he's not able to put the best lap into qualifying in a few moments, to be one of those guys that is able to work his way through the field.
Definitely Ariel's going to be someone to watch here. And now we switch on over to follow Giovanni Messnes here. Giovanni, I believe, was not able to join us for round 1 in Spa-Francorchamps. So here now we follow him into turn 17, and we're going to follow him as he makes his debut in the Rysa GT3 series here as well. Giovanni also participating in the Miata series, so he'll be a little bit familiar with our format as well. Our format just consists of a 30-minute practice session at the beginning, as we're in right now, with about, oh, look at that, as I say that, it's now time's up for practicing, and soon after we'll get into our qualifying session. This time we're doing it as a 5-lap shootout here, best lap here determines the pole sitter, and then we move on over to race 1. We have an 8-lapper as well, and then we get into race 2 soon after. Now
One
we
thing-
see our. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention one thing that was really interesting to me. Round 1 winner, RC Anderson, did not go to the racetrack whatsoever for practice. He got out there with about 30 seconds before the checkered flag flew, and now as we're just starting to see drivers head onto the racetrack for qualifying here, as we've got a 15-minute time clock for everyone to turn 5 laps. That is one of the few drivers that was expected to be fast that we have no read for and no prediction really for how quick he's going to be at Sebring.
Things just got interesting. You're right. As we mentioned before, already set up his key. He mentioned already in race 1 in our post-race interview that he had a solid setup. Let's see if he has it again tonight for Sebring International Raceway. Now we follow along Juan Bizamil here. Definitely one of the more experienced drivers here in terms of the participation for the iRysa series here. I have I'm not too familiar with him unless someone tells me another name of his. But for the most part, he's participated in the Miata series as well as a decent nitpacker, and hopefully he'll be able to progress even better in these GT3 series.
Yeah, Juan Vilas Mills made a couple of starts here at AMR Motorplex in the 206 senior class. He hasn't raced full-time in it, but when he's been in it, he's been solid. And as you mentioned, Anthony, having a few iRacing starts helps, as you won't be one of the completely green rookies that we'll see here on the grid tonight out of our 30-plus driver entry list. But right now, he is in a gaggle of cars, 4 cars right now all together. One driver right behind him, RC Anderson, along with Bobby Ross, who is closest there in the Mercedes AMG, and he's going to go side by side, take him through. And then there's Jose Carlos Hernandez, one of the Mexican entries, in the 227, as he works his way on the back straightaway behind these crazy 3 guys, and they're going to come together just in front of him. That's going to give RC Anderson some damage, and that just sent Vilas Mills spinning. And while they all should have time to get 5 laps in, as you get into carnage here, it's a 2-minute outlap they've got to burn. We've already got 2 minutes burned away, so only 13 minutes left here in the qualifying session to try and turn 5 hot laps here at Sebring International Raceway.
Definitely here. Now we follow again Juan Carlos Hernandez. As I mentioned before, there was a Mexican driver field, and we have found him. Now what we can see here in our little overlay here, a bit of an upgrade here for our AsIMRacing network here, always trying to strive for the best and improve ourselves in the network. If you're watching this right now, please give a like and subscribe to the stream here. It'll help us out. We're trying to continue growing both ourselves in the network and also RySa's participation or presence in the online community. Both RySa having a very strong presence in the community, karting community now. We're trying to grow it as well in the virtual world as well. Now we're following none other than Mr. AsIMRacing himself, Rudy Ramsey as he tries to put down the best qualifying time he can, going into, I believe that was tower turn, and now he's into the dirt. He's going to see if he makes it back on track safely. A bit of a concern of an issue that some of the other drivers were facing in previous races is coming back on track safely. Definitely something that you need to watch out for when you're here for racing in the virtual world, as some people, not all, will have a single monitor set up here and that restricts peripheral vision. So key tip here for anybody that's not familiar with iRacing is there's some certain black box infographs here that you want to keep on, and the relative one being the preferred one, just so you can see just how far away there's another driver close to you before you pull up on track. We follow Jordan Hernandez here as he has a RySa swagged out AMG here, filled with RySa Bell and Burrell art stickers here, definitely holding true to his karting nature here with his paint scheme here. Great effort and great job with his livery. Now we see an entire field of cars coming down here through the straightaway going into turn 17 here, as let's see how many different drivers take different lines here. The first car that went into the turn, that Ferrari, took a wide line, but Jordan takes the normal conventional line. Finishes out pretty wide though. Now we see our little infographs disappeared. I'm not sure where Jordan is in terms of the leaderboard here. Second currently, so we're now starting to complete our first hot laps. Following old Mackenzie over here.
So as you mentioned, Anthony, everyone just starting to complete their first laps here. We've only got 3 names up on the board right now: Francisco Cresa, Franco Sapuya, Jordan Hernandez with their first lap set, and they've only got 10 minutes to go. So I'm not sure if everyone here is going to get the chance to put 5 laps in. At this rate, everyone will be lucky just to knock out 3, because when you factor in each lap is 2 minutes long, and at best, if you only have to reset to the pit initially when you come out of the pit lane and get that 2-minute outlap out of the way, you're looking at 6 potential full laps, so 12 minutes. We have less than 10 here remaining. So again, at the best right now, you're hoping for 3, maybe 4 laps if you haven't already put one together. Mackenzie Farah is one of the few Georgia-based drivers here racing with us. Of course, iRysa based in South Florida, just here in Miami. And so they've got racers from all around the world, of course, a lot of drivers that hail from Latin America, from the Caribbean, from South America as well. You don't see a whole lot of guys from the northern states in the USA. So cool to see Mackenzie representing. Right now he is working through a little bit of traffic. I believe that is either Bobby Ross or Franco Sapuya running in front of him. As now we switch back to another Miamian, Ariel Castro, who I mentioned was a little bit down the order in practice, but right now working a lap here. We'll see if he can jump up a couple spots, as again only 7 drivers have turned laps so far here in qualifying.
And those 7 drivers so far, now 8, it's going to be Correcias, Iglesias, Orjuela, Cipulo, Hernandez, Piero, Arias, and Piero. Cipulo going green again this time by, and now Hernandez does as well as they circle back around. And now we have Bobby Ross entering the mix here, going to 6th, now 7th. We have more drivers crossing the finish line now as we call them out. And let's give a bit of a chance here for more drivers to come out on board. And let's see, we have 8 minutes remaining on the qualifying sessions, as we still have some more drivers closing up their hot laps. The issue being, not so much issue, rather, I think the reason why we're not seeing too many laps being turned soon enough is iRacing is pretty picky when it comes to determining what lap is acceptable in the qualifying sessions. If you drop a wheel, it will not count, unfortunately. If you bump into another driver, it doesn't count as well. So clean driving is definitely one of the challenges here in the virtual space when participating in these iRysa championships as well. iRacing having its own set of rules that you must abide by.
Yeah, definitely abiding by the rules is something that some of these guys may be struggling with just a little bit here. One driver who seems to never like to abide by the rules is Franco Sapuya, and that's why it's so surprising to me that he's actually able to put in laps. But there's the announcer's curse. Franco has one driver just ahead of him going off to the side of the racetrack and into the wall, but somehow or another Franco Sapuya's put down a lap and he's 5th.
I think Franco might be the only driver that I know that can somehow manage to turn a curse into a blessing, as now he is free to continue on with his qualifying session here now that driver unfortunately pulled off into the wall.
Yeah, well, like you said, Anthony, curse turned into a blessing. He's got clean racetrack in front of him. You can see the guys behind him are a little bit cluttered. Now, there is definitely a slipstream effect coming into account here for qualifying. Unlike the open wheel race cars, you don't get nearly as much of an aero wash or understeer when you're running right behind another car, so you can get a bit of help, maybe a couple tenths here or there by being behind someone within a second on a straightaway. The difference is, again, you don't know how quick that driver may be if they haven't turned a lap yet and you weren't paying attention in practice, because the delta right now, first to last, is 10 seconds. That's a huge difference. I would much rather have a clean racetrack than a guy even just 3 or 4 seconds off the pace that I can run, because he's going to hold me up. So we'll see right now as the times are starting to change at the top. We have Alessandro Tullio just setting the benchmark, 2 minutes 6.73, half a second over Emo Fittipaldi Jr., who just jumped up, and Francisco Cresa improved his lap before the 2 youngsters beat him. He is 3rd, just over Diego Iglesias.
And just as we were talking about the Tullio going purple here, it seems he managed to figure out his setup here in his Ferrari. He went off track, so now he has to go back, or he'd rather choose to go back rather than complete another lap around. Not sure if that's the smartest choice, is given that you have to do another out lap before starting the flying lap here. We only have about 5 minutes remaining, so if he figures out how to do some clean laps here from here on out, he might be managing to squeeze in 2 Now we follow along D'Tulio once again. If I'm not mistaken, that car ahead might be Piero. Oh, he pulls off to the side and lets him on through. Smart move. Let's see. Now we have Ryan Amelis coming in, starting to put his first lap down in 6th place here. There we're following the Florida-based driver here as well, deciding to choose the AMG stable here for today's race. Ryan involved into a rather controversial incident with Franco last time in Spa-Francorchamps. Let's see if this time he can do this race clean as we follow him along into turn 7 here, the tight hairpin here in front of the 7 Sebring Hotel.
One guy I'd like to see if we could switch over to would be RC Anderson, our provisional points leader and round 1 winner right now. Still is not on the boards with less than 5 minutes remaining here. Coming up on 4 minutes to go for RC Anderson. This is a replay here just coming out of the pit lane, but we'll go to the live. He's right now working a lap, it looks like, or at least an outlap from Robert Garcia. I believe an outlaps. And ahead of these two drivers, looks to be clear enough racetrack if he can get by him. Garcia at the moment is 17th, so that wouldn't help our points leader all too much. But RC Anderson, with the pace he had last week, he knows that the speed should be there as long as he can put a good lap in here at Sebring. I wouldn't expect him to fall too far back. And now it appears he's going to try and give himself a little bit of a gap. So again, he may be at the mercy of other drivers coming out of the pit lane, but this is your points leader and round 1 winner right now, sitting with no lap time. That would put him outside of, I believe, 25th on the grid. This could be either disaster or potentially a good save if this move here grants him some clean racetrack to throw something down, because any kind of lap he can put together, if it's within a second of Alessandro D'Tulio, it's going to put him at worst 6th place. So RC Anderson working down to turn number 1, no traffic in sight for now. Let's see if we can follow along and watch one of the fastest drivers on the grid here for the iRysa iRacing Series official championship. And if he can put a good lap in to move him into a good starting position for race number 1.
RC Anderson here, not that lap that he just turned over did not appear up on the leaderboard. I wonder why. Looking at him here, for some reason he has 11 incident points. It may be that he has been putting a wheel in the grass every lap. Just like I mentioned before, you need to have a clean lap in order for iRacing to register that lap for qualifying. Let's see what else can he do for the evening here. Go ahead and look over here on my end some of his laps to make sure that everything's okay. But in the meantime, we'll follow along here, RC, as he goes into Cunningham here. Definitely one of the drivers to watch out for. Your winner in Spa-Francorchamps, doing a clean sweep of race 1 and 2 here. Definitely one of the more serious drivers that you need to watch out for this evening. And let's see who else can we see on board. Still your leader on board is D'Tulio here in the Ferrari. Seems he managed to figure out the setup in that Ferrari here. Next would be Fittipaldi. Looking on board with Alessandro. Seems like he's taking a break, maybe going ahead and make some more changes to the setup here before the race starts. Fittipaldi here in the Mercedes, as well as he goes around into turn 1 and into the dirt and into the barrier wall. He'll have to reset with about 1.5 minutes remaining here in qualifying. Third is Croatia here from El Salvador, as we mentioned. There he goes, starting another lap once again. It may just be his last lap here in the qualifying session, Francisco. And directly behind him is, ironically, behind him in the leaderboard as well, Matias Orjuela in 4th as well. And he goes wide and into the dirt. That lap will not count, and unfortunately he does lose control. And he might tap the barrier there, may not. Might want to go back to the pits anyways, just to be clear of any damage that may have occurred there. 5th is, that may be Diego Iglesias, not to be confused with his brother, Pedro. Don't see Pedro on the leaderboard here tonight, so it just may be the lone Diego from El Salvador here with his other countryman, Francisco, 3rd in the leaderboard. But now, finally, RC Anderson did turn a lap. He is currently in 6th right now. Very surprising. Let's see what he can do as we have about 45 seconds left in the session here. RC, one of the more faster drivers here in the evening tonight. If that's the case, he may have a challenge here, as he'll have to start from, if I'm doing my math correctly, 3rd row, and then work his way up. The rest of the leaderboard here would be Hernandez, Bohola, Amelis, Pecorini, Farah, Chipulio, Hernandez again, Iglesias, Ross, Piero, Arias, Garcia, Delgado, and Vizamil.
Yeah, so Pedro Iglesias is here tonight. He's getting outrun by his brother just a little bit. He sits down behind Jordan Hernandez and Franco Sapullo outside the top 10 in 14th. Now, RC Anderson did have to make a pass, which we caught on the live stream, into the first hairpin of the racetrack, but he did not make it back to the line there at the checkers. So RC Anderson, like I mentioned, all he had to do was throw a lap that was within a second of the pole sitter Alessandro D'Atulio, and he goes from a potential dismal starting spot as far back as 28th or 29th. Instead, he's going to roll off the grid here in 6th for race number 1. 8 laps set for the distance here, Anthony. Let's take you through the starting grid. Of course, on the front row, it's going to be Alessandro D'Atulio and Mo Jr. Fittipaldi, two of the youngest drivers on the grid here tonight, and they're followed up by Francisco Cresa, representing for El Salvador. To the outside of him, it'll be another young pilot in the Raceway iRacing Championship, Matias Orjuela.
Starting in the third row would be Diego Iglesias, followed by RC Anderson. Next would be Jose Hernandez, Luke Bohola here in the 888 car, Brian Amelis in the 25, Eduardo Pecorini in the 47, Mackenzie Farah following in 11th, and Franco Chapullo in 12th. Next would be... Go ahead.
Oh, moving a little bit further back there as we work to row number 7. It'll be Jordan Hernandez, the number 27, starting to the inside of brother Diego Iglesias, Pedro Iglesias, P14. P15 will be Bobby Ross, and joined to his outside it'll be Jerry DiPiero to round out your top 16, Anthony.
Alejandro Arias here in 17th here, followed by Robert Garcia, another Florida driver here. That's the majority of the field here. Tyler Delgado here in 19th, and Juan Vizamil. Xander?
Moving further back outside your top 20, it'll be Rudy Ramsaroop starting P21, just to his outside by Ariel Castro, two drivers who are probably more than double the age of 3 of our top 4 starters here tonight. Then moving to the outside edge of the top 24, it's Giovanni Menezes and George DiPiero to round out the first, I believe, 12 rows. Moving finally to the last few spots on the grid, it'll be Christopher Larea, Frankie Barroso, and then our final few starters here tonight, mixed in with a couple of our announcer names, Anthony Rand, Maximo Ramirez, Juan Arenas, and Javier, or I should say Tyler Delgado. So it should be just about 29 or 30 cars if we get everyone here. Lights are out, and we are away. My goodness, Anthony, I didn't realize we were going to a standing start just there, but we are underway down to turn number 1.
And we have Alessandro D'Atulio pulling away in the red Ferrari going into turn 1 here. It is a full pack here in the iRysa GT3 series as we go through turn 1. 4 wide as we go. Oh, and Alessandro, your leader here, goes turning away and into turn 1, gets back on track into a clutter track. Unbelievably, he doesn't suffer any damage or crashing here from the field. It's 4 wide as we go into turn 2 as well. And oh no, we have a crash here that may or may not have been Rudy Ramsaroop here flipping up into the air. That's how unfortunate. Your leader here now is Matias Orjuela, as he has a furious Fittipaldi behind him as well, charging to try and get the lead here before the lap 1 is over. Xander?
That was a wild opening lap. Luke Bola was the driver who got sent absolutely barrel rolling and tumbling. We've got more spinning out here in the opening hairpin. RC Anderson has gone around, so that was a driver that was up in your lead group. And as we see him coming down into the corner, he just gets tagged, and around he goes. So RC Anderson from 3rd all the way deep in the pack. So a number of our top contenders here, Anthony, taken out early. Your leader, as you mentioned, is Matias Orjuela at the moment. He has had one heck of a start here to his night. The young driver staying out of trouble, but he has dropped back to 2nd as Mo Fittipaldi has worked his way by, and the first lap carnage far from over. We've still got plenty of drivers close together here as the leaders work their way through the S's for the first time.
Orjuela, one of the more recently joined, recently joined iRacing not too long ago here. Started out being more of a mid-packer here, trying to get used to the physics here in iRacing. Has now quickly progressed to being a top driver here in the GT3 category here, chasing Fittipaldi. Now we look on board and see D'Atulio here, trying to get his lead back as he is currently in 12th in the Ferrari here, one of 4 entries here amongst the Italian crew here, as we have D'Atulio going into 17, following another Mercedes as well. D'Atulio carefully choosing his line here as he tries to overcome the rest of the field as they come to start finish here. Fittipaldi going purple this time by here, with Orjuela going green as we have the completion of lap 2 here, going into the progressing of the race here. Now we have 7 laps to go. We're looking ahead with Matias Orjuela trying to see if he can close the gap with Fittipaldi. It's about a 7/10 gap here. Trying to close it on by Emma's here in the back here as well. Trying to catch up to the front pack. Xander.
Heck of a start for Pedro Iglesias, up 10 spots already to P4 on the racetrack. He runs a little bit behind your top 3 of Emo Fittipaldi Jr., Ryan Amols in 3rd, and Matias Orjuela in 2nd. Iglesias does have Bobby Ross working behind him, and a big train of cars back in the 6th spot on back. Alejandro Arias has a hungry RC Anderson trying to make up some more ground. He's also got Alessandro Tullio back there. Franco Sabullo has just been passed by both of them, and Juan Arenas trails this group as well. So this is a 5 or 6 car group. As we go on board with RC Anderson, you can see he is working to find a hole past that Mercedes. Into this corner here, the right-hander, he'll dive it down the inside. RC Anderson is going to go through for 6. Contact made, and around goes Alejandro Arias, as I believe Tullio tried to follow. And again, more carnage here on the 2nd lap of this 8-lap dash. Anthony, this has been a wild start, and it continues to show more chaos and more action here as we continue to follow this group just outside the top 5.
Plenty of action here tonight in the iRysa GT3 category here. For our followers here, we have a bit of a promotion here in the chat going on, some shout outs going on to some of our drivers here, going out to Ariel Castro, Franco, Rudy, and Diego. We have some watchful eyes here tonight on YouTube. I want to thank you all for joining us here, and we're thanking you back here, or giving you some pretty good action here as we follow along here with RC Anderson here to try and see if he can recover a bit of ground as he spun in the first lap here. Orjuela going purple now as he is your new leader, with somehow Fittipaldi going to 3rd here. Might have to get a replay of that, of what happened. Amos taking advantage and going to 2nd after that. Now the rest of your top 5 will consist of Iglesias, and Ross is here as well. Oh, now we have a replay here, see maybe what happened last lap. Following along with Mackenzie Farah, the number 172 here from Georgia. See.
Just went back a little bit to find your leader, Emo Fittipaldi Jr. last time by. Anthony, here we go. We've got the replay queued up. He's coming into turn 17, a little bit too hot. He loses the rear end, tries to chase the front with it, and he just pancakes, really slams that left front into the tire barrier, and then he ends up losing the lead to Orjuela, who gets by, and Ryan Amols into 2nd. And now up front, as we've gone ahead, we have lost Matias Orjuela as well. And the driver chat between all these guys is going absolutely ballistic with all this chaos. RC Anderson has also just got taken out as well.
Bit of a drama occurring here now with 6 laps to go at Sebring International Raceway. Mackenzie Farah and Alessandro Tullio were black flagged by our in-house race control as well. Probably due to some incident here as well. We might have to get a replay for that as well. Now we're on board to see RC Anderson getting taken out by, it seems like, Franco Tullio as well. RC unfortunately going off into the Cunningham turn. He'll have to make up some ground again for some going off track. See what else happens. Following alongside Franco with Bobby Ross behind him. Now we're back live. Bobby Ross goes side by side passing Franco on the straightaway here going into turn 17. That's the battle here for 7th. No, excuse me, 6. Bobby Ross is ahead, and now Franco goes on the inside line here. Not so much. Still has not carrying that speed. Bobby Ross goes wide, and Franco goes on the inside to take the next spot, which is 6th place. It's a drag race here between Franco, Bobby Ross, and Juan Arenas, and now Juan making his move here on the inside before getting into turn 1. So Arenas now going to be behind Chabula here. And now side by side as they go into the next turn here. Juan Arenas goes hard into the brakes here as they for the heartbreaker left turn here. He goes away now. See if he'll pull away now. They get into the straightaway here as they get into turn 7. That's going to be a deciding factor here. One of the hard braking zones of the entire track, turn 7. Let's see what Franco can do as he gets closer and closer to Juan Sebastian Arenas.
Juan Arenas just poking the nose down to the inside a little bit later than the rest of the guys are before he slides up to the outside lane, and he overcooks it on the entry. They're door to door, banging wheels as they go through the S's coming out of that hairpin. And here we go into a corner that'll have Sapuyo. Should be on the inside. If he can hang it around the outside on the bend, he's going to need to send it deep. He's going to give it to him. He'll let Arenas hold on to the lead, and he's going to turn in early and again try to chop the nose to hold Sapuyo back. Race control going back and forth with Alessandro D'Attulio. He was pleading his case to get them to waive the pass-through penalty, but he has been given a full stop-and-go pass-through the pit lane penalty. That will take him out of 4th, undoubtedly. It should knock him back to 19th or 20th. So heartbreaking here for D'Attulio, what we did see on the screen, some of the carnage that he was involved in. I believe it's for a multitude of incidents, and I can't say for certain whether or not they were all solely on his behalf. I believe one possibly for a corner cutting issue as well. So rough night here, going from bad to worse after spinning out of the lead off the start for Alessandro D'Attulio. Not how he would have liked to start race number 1. But as we watch him work into turn 17, let's see if he comes into the pit lane right now. And when we do get through that, I'd like to take a moment to go back up to our leaders, as here comes D'Attulio to the pits. Your leader, Emo Fittipaldi, setting his personal best lap of the race right now, and he has just gotten himself back ahead of Ryan Amoyles to put himself on top of the boards, and potentially some major points to be made up here as your championship leader, RC Anderson, down in 11th.
Fittipaldi back into the lead, taking his personal best, as you mentioned before. We have your top 5 still, or now, is Fittipaldi, Amoyes, Orjuela, Iglesias, and Chipulo. Iglesias here being a hard charger here with 10 spots overcoming to get himself into 4th here, but that hard charger award might just have to go to Juan Sebastian Arenas here, taking 23 spots overall here, as displayed by our AsIMRacing network graphics here. Now we're going to go ahead and see follow RC Anderson here. Where is he now in the leaderboard? He is 10th, trying to start his way back up. He's down 4 spots here. Let's see if he can recover those 4 spots towards the end of the race here. 4 laps to go here in race 1 of round 2 in the iRysa GT3 series.
Yeah, just crazy to think that we're already at the halfway point here in race number 1. It has been filled with action to this point so far. We're watching right now with Bobby Ross as he trails Franco Sapuyo, running just ahead of Juan Arenas. I believe he's got some lap traffic running behind him because Arenas is about 8 seconds back. But focusing on Ross, then Sapuyo, and Pedro Iglesias, who has had, again, such a great start to his night to move up into the 4th spot. Arenas up 23 positions to 7th, and he got even a little bit higher before Sapuyo and Ross have been able to slip on by. They'll work their way down the backstretch now, this time by the stripe, Anthony. It'll be just 3 laps to go.
Following along Bobby here as he still tries to take back his spot from Franco Chipulo here. So there's a bit of a commotion here in the in-car chat here. Bobby saying something about the pass that just went down here in turn 16. Now we're following along. Bobby Ross still here as he goes wide. Who is that that's going on by? It looks like
that's the
may have been a lap
traffic of
marker.
Luke Bola. So he is 1 lap down, Anthony. Just Bobby giving way to him. Knew the pace was a little better. Was not a battle for position, so he gladly yielded the spot. And by him doing so now, he gave up a little bit of time to Franco Sapuyo. But again, what has been a good points run. As you mentioned, Anthony, it's a battle of attrition here. Just trying to stay alive, keep the nose clean. You end up gaining quite a few spots, especially with how chaotic this race has been. Looking further back, Rudy Ramsrup is up to 17th, now to 15th. More drivers getting taken out, and the leaderboard just jumps up and down every time we take a look at it. Again, the AsIMRacing CEO, Rudy Ramsrup, at the moment working towards turn number 2. He's a little ways back from your leaders, but is up a couple spots by trying to stay out of trouble and just pounding some consistent laps here at the outside edge of the top 15.
We had a change in leaderboards right now, and it's still ongoing as I'm speaking. It went from Fittipaldi to Amoyes to Orjuela, back to Fittipaldi, and back again to Orjuela. There's some hot action right now going on with the top 3 drivers here in the GT3 category here. Where are they right now? There they are, going out of tower turn here. Fittipaldi hot on his tail here. Or wait, Amoyes is actually way further up ahead with a 4-second gap here to Orjuela. It seems, there it is, yes.
we can go back just a little bit here and catch on the replay, just about halfway through this lap, Mo Fittipaldi Jr. was trying to work on a Ryan Amoyles for the lead, and they went side by side going into a corner. Amoyles was on the defensive. Fittipaldi made a late braking move to get to the inside, but he got on the brake pedal a couple seconds too late, went wide. Orwela was able to slip by, and it threw our leaderboard for a spin. But now, as we've got them, making their way around the racetrack, it is Fittipaldi in the third spot, Orwela in second, and Amoyles with a big lead out in front. So we're trying to see if we can dig the replay. I think it may have happened just the corner before this one here, as I can see him behind Orwela at the moment on the screen.
From what I'm interpreting, it seems like Fittipaldi went off track, so maybe on his own accord. He was, there it is.
Here we go, we've got it, yeah, right here.
He was side by side with the Moyes, and now it turns out he is right next to Orwela. Let's see what happened here. It seems like he was blinking. He may have had a netcode or a disconnection issue that may have hindered his vision and put him off on track. That's the only guess I can put, given what we're seeing on screen right now. But now he is side by side with Orwela for a battle for second. Moyes is still your leader here now with about 2 laps to go in the race 1 of round 2 here in the iRysa GT3 Championship.
Yeah, this is interesting here for the championship fight. So looking at, of course, your point standings from the opening round, RC Anderson sweeping leads the points here in with a commanding lead. Alessandro DeTullio was looking to take some major points out of that big gap, but unfortunately his drive-through penalty has put him down to 19th. RC Anderson, your championship leader, playing damage control, is 7th at the moment, and really no other driver besides Fittipaldi was standing to make up quite a bit of ground here. Amoyles, your leader, did not even make a really much of a start at Spa-Francorchamps, was outside of the points scoring positions at both races. So this is huge here for Ryan Amoyles' championship hopes, as he's got a 5.8 second lead back to Matthias Orwela, and the championship leader RC Anderson is down in 7th. He's working closer to Bobby Ross, but he's only going to have a lap to make up about 2 seconds to the South Florida-based drivers. So let's see if we can switch up front, though. I'd like to focus on this battle for second, because Matthias Orwela has now just gotten a big gap. Something happened to Mo Fittipaldi Jr. He is dropping like a rock on the leaderboard. Something went wrong once again for young Fittipaldi.
Final lap here, white flag to go as Ryan Moyes here takes his white flag here as we go through turn 4 in the currently driving the AMG GT3 category. RC Anderson goes purple here for the entire race here, as he is currently in 7th here. Let's see what else he can finish to now. He has about a bit of a second to the next car, which is Bobby Ross. Go ahead and see what Anderson can do towards the end of the session here. Your top 5 for now as we go into the last lap is Moyes, Orwela, Fittipaldi, and Iglesias. And excuse me, Franco. Fittipaldi here looks like seemed to be back on pace now. Still he's about 2 seconds away from Orwela. Possibly he just went off track.
So these young kids here, they've been able to put some quick laps down, but we talked a little bit with Bobby in the pre-race how tricky this racetrack is. It's a testament to the lead that Ryan Amoyles has been able to build up right now, because while he's done a great job, if we could just take a look, this battle is on for second. Here comes Mo Fittipaldi Jr. and Matthias Orwela. They are door to door on the final lap of race number 1. Orwela trying to fight, and he has to give it to him. Fittipaldi is through. Here comes Pedro Iglesias. So 3 drivers together for second, and Orwela's going to have to give up more time. He must have got a slowdown penalty. He drops to 4th. Here comes Franco Sapullo. He wants the 4th spot now. He'll try and push Orwela to 5th. But before we do that, Anthony, let's call our leader to the line.
Ryan Amoyles here going into turn 17. Just before we went off screen there, it seems like Pedro went off track here, has dropped into 6th here. We're going to follow Ryan here as he goes into turn 17 here, being so carefully not to overspin it here as he comes off on the exit of turn 17. Going down the straightaway here, he will take his first win in the GT3 category here in the iRysa Championship. Ryan Amoyles here is your winner of race 1. Now we're going to go back to that battle here for second here, Fittipaldi and Orwela, and I'm going to let Xander here take over and see what happens.
Wild stuff here for Mo Fittipaldi Jr. on this final lap around the racetrack. He gets his way up to second. Matias Orjuela ended in third. There was more chaos behind them as Franco Sapullo ended fourth and RC Anderson. Bobby Ross also able to get by, as we mentioned, Anthony Pedro Iglesias spinning there. The brothers ending 7th and 8th right together there at the very end of this one. Pedro still makes up 7 spots overall, but Bobby Ross moves to 6th. RC Anderson, your championship leader, with a heck of a comeback run after not one but 2 major issues in the opening few laps to go to 5th. Franco Sapullo, Matias Orjuela, of course, the end of the podium here for race number 1, and Emo Fittipaldi ending P2. A number of drivers taking the point at certain stages of this race, Anthony. I'm not sure what there is to expect or how you can even predict the outcome for race number 2 based off what we've just seen.
Some very hot action that we just witnessed right now, and it can only get hotter as we go into race 2. The field's going to be probably a little bit more mixed up compared to what we saw in qualifying now as we get ready to set for race 2 here. A bit of a 5-minute intermission here as we wait on for the rest of the drivers to finish race 1 here. I'm going to take that intermission here to possibly do any interviews here of any drivers that wanted to give their thoughts. We're back here, set to get underway with race 2. We have about 15 seconds here before we get started here, and lights out, or away we go. Let's go through our starting grid quickly. Ryan, Emo, Matias, Franco, RC, Bobby, Pedro, Diego, Frankie, Alejandro, Giovanni, Jerry.
Moving further back here to our second page, it's Jose Hernandez and Rudy Ramzoop, who made up quite a few spots in the first race. Jordan Hernandez, Juan Villasmil. Then it's Robert Garcia, Francisco Cresa, Eduardo Pecorini, and oh, we are underway very quickly here. Green flag, we've got a couple turned at the start. Big crash here on the front straightaway. It is a yard sale here at Sebring. Emo Fittipaldi Jr., I believe, was the driver who got turned initially. And from there, it has just exploded.
Bad start here. Not what we wanted to see here for start of race 2 here. But it seems like everyone's managed to collect themselves. Those that can continue have managed to tow themselves back to the pits here. Those that could continue on, and those that had damage are going to continue to limp on for the rest of the track here as they get set to complete lap 1 here. Let's see what happened. Oh no, it seems like he couldn't put the car in gear. And I had a race here with Emo earlier, and it seems like he was having steering wheels issue that may have been a consequence of that. It's that incident there starting a whole junkyard, as Xander here placed it as well. Gonna see what else can we do about the session here, about that.
Yeah, this is just unprecedented, and we got to go back up front because there's more carnage. Ryan Amoles and Franco Sapullo come together for the lead. Just trying to go back live here. That's just shaking up the leaders again. Your race 1 leader just came together with Franco Sapullo. Sapullo's back going. Here's Amoles off the racetrack, and he's in the wall. Ryan Amoles into the wall now. More contact through the rest of the field. He is back into the pit lane. Your leader is RC Anderson, and I believe we are going to be restarting this race in some form.
We're waiting to hear the word here from race controller here as we are having requests to restart the race here. Did not go the way that everybody expected here. Now we're following alongside RC Anderson that managed to go through all of that clear as a whistle here. Bit of a...
and here we go, yellow flag, Anthony.
Yellow flag here. That means we're going to go for a double file restart here. The field is going to slow down and get set to recollect itself. That way we'll have a chance for everybody to catch up and start the race over again here. Might have to be a rolling start from here on out. Let's see what happens when the cars start to collect themselves and catch up now.
So this is going to be a lengthy caution period here. This is a long racetrack to have yellow laps at, Anthony. But nonetheless here, this is a savior to many drivers who were involved in that opening start incident. And again now as well here for Franco Sapullo. He is back in the mix after getting turned. Ryan Amoles might get a chance here as well after stuffing it into the tire barrier following his contact with Franco. He's going to get another shot also. So the caution flag coming out. We'll see if anyone's going to get a wave by on the pace car. It looks like Ariel Castro has gotten one. So he's going to go around our iRacing.com pace truck. But RC Anderson, your leader here early in race number 2. This caution flag is going to take up a couple of laps on this race. 8 laps, a short distance, means it'll be an even shorter time when we get back underway. Matias Orwela is going to get to restart second. Then it'll be Juan Villasmil third. DeTulio with some front end damage, but still muscling along, will start fourth. So a good rebound for Alessandro. Diego Iglesias fifth. Alejandro Arias sixth. Franco Sapullo seventh. Robert Garcia eighth. Tyler Delgado up to ninth. And I believe he started all the way back outside the top 20. So Tyler Delgado should be up, or should be in the 9th spot, but he's actually 1 lap down. So he is going to be... No, he is in 9th. Yes, Tyler Delgado 9th. Mackenzie Farah is 10th. And man, it is just tough here, Anthony, to try and keep up, because we thought we knew chaos from race number 1, and this has brought it to a whole new level.
Chaos is definitely the word here. As the start of race 2 has started with just that here. Some of our drivers here are some local karting drivers that know what it is to experience this lap. So I'm sure that as soon as that pace car brings the field back around, we'll be able to start back underway with some peace. have some commotion here in the on the driver's chat here. They're trying to figure out how to start the restart again. Generally, for the most part, what race control has chosen to do is a single file restart. Seems like if this is like the real thing, pace car lights are off. We'll be able to go back under green soon. Are we muted? We are back. Thank you for your patience here. The rest of you here in the stream here, commenting below for your favorite drivers. Thank you for your patience here. Getting ready to go here. Double file restart here. About 5 laps to go here. We're going to be 4 when we come to the line here. RC Anderson is your leader with Mercedes Ojuela on the inside row. Pace cars going in hot into the pits now. And we have our double file restart getting ready to go here. Getting ready to see the green flag here as we come to this straightaway. It's green flag here. Race 2 officially now underway here with the restart. RC Anderson is going to tail ahead away from the pack as they go into turn 1 here. Orjuela is going to be right behind him with a Vizamil behind him as well into third. DeTulio in fourth here trying to make up what happened into race 1 here. As no, I spoke too soon. We have a driver going into the wall. That may have been DeTulio, another Ferrari going into the wall. It seems like another wreck fest here at the start of the race. Xander?
Yeah, Alessandro D'Atulia out. He collected Matias Orjuela, both of them out here early. So it's RC Anderson with an 2-second lead. Then it's Diego Iglesias who has moved into second. Mackenzie Farah, who had a drive-through penalty that severed his hopes in race 1, is side by side for P2. Into the hairpin here. There was all kinds of carnage coming to the green there on that restart. And there's still more going on here. Bobby Ross coming together with Robert Garcia. 3 or 4 cars are wide in the back. And we're just trying to catch up with all the names that it continue to shuffle here at the top of the boards. But RC Anderson, your leader. Here's Jordan Hernandez, who gets spun around, and he's already had damage, was crab walking sideways. More cars collected here as Hernandez was up into 10th, so we are down to now, I believe, only about 7 or 8 unscathed race cars with 2.5 or 3.5 laps to go here at Sebring.
Rather unfortunate here as we're looking here through the leaderboard. It's going to still be your top 5. Anderson, Farah, Piero, and Moise. Delgado here. Delgado taking 21 spots here in the mix of all that here, and I do believe, I can't see right now on the graphics, Farah actually taking 20 spots as well, taking advantage of all the carnage here going on in race 2. RC Anderson here now currently has about a 6 gap here amongst Farah here. Let's see if Farah has enough speed to catch up to the part-time IndyCar driver here driving the Ferrari.
So your round 1 winner here and championship leader coming into this week, won both races at Spa-Francorchamps, now leads the way late in the going here in race number 2. RC Anderson up by nearly 6 seconds over Mackenzie Farah in second. George De Piero, I believe, has moved up into the third. Jerry De Piero into the third spot, but he's under heavy pressure here from race 1 winner tonight, Ryan Amoyles, who is working the rear end of that Ferrari as they come down just behind Mackenzie Farah, who is center of your screen. It's a big gap back from these two, but again, this battle to the edge of the podium and some valuable points here for Ryan Amoyles as we ride on board in the Mercedes AMG GT3 entry. He is all over the rear bumper, coming into a prime passing opportunity. He'll poke the nose down the inside, and as they get into the braking zone, he's going to get it given to him nice and easy by Jerry Di Piero. And so Ryan Amoyles into third.
Turn 7 is where he took his spot here. Now he's going to try and gap the Ferrari here as they go on, make their way towards Cunningham here. Pecorini going purple this time by here, the 14th place driver in the Mercedes here, doing some business here in the back of the field, trying to make up some more ground. Pecorini actually already taking 5 spots, but going purple seems like he has the potential to take more.
Moving a little bit further back here, Matias Orjuela has just worked his way around the outside of Tyler Delgado. So rebounding back from getting collected in the wreck with Alessandro D'Atulio, move Matias Orjuela back into the top 5. He should be on for a solid points day here tonight. Nobody as good of a rebound though as RC Anderson with a 5th place in race number 1, not giving up on the incidents that knocked him down the order. He is now set for a prime points night here tonight, looking to take 3 out of the 4 races so far in the Rysa iRacing.com Championship Series.
Anderson here going around turn 17 to complete the 6th lap here, if I'm not mistaken, or 7th rather. Now, excuse me, we're on the start of 7th here. Now he goes purple going into that lap here as well. Now we have 2 laps to go here. Anderson is still your leader. And it seems like he's only gapping Farah as the gap has increased to about 8.5 seconds here. But it seems like there may be excuse me, still a gap between second and third as well. So let's see if we can find some more on-track action here amongst the rest of the field. Let's go ahead and scan the track. So we've got a battle here for 11th and 12th here. That is Robert Garcia and Bobby Ross here, our friendly neighborhood insider here. Seems like Bobby will take a rather wider line here coming out of 17, and they go into the straightaway here following Garcia.
One battle I'd like to switch over to if we could. Third place driver Ryan Amoyles has run down second place Mackenzie Farah. So as we work our way up the order, you can see Amoyles is much closer now to Farah than where he was just a lap ago. And with a lap and a half remaining, there is not a lot of time left, but this could be still a heck of a night for Ryan Amoyles to go from 0 points in both races at Spa-Francorchamps to potentially a first and a second place run here in Sebring. He is 2 car lengths back as they work their way through one of the back sections at Sebring International Raceway. They'll head through a full throttle double left-hander, the S's, and into the back straightaway towards turn 17. That might be a prime passing opportunity here coming to see the white flag. So 1 to go this time. Ryan Amoyles all over Mackenzie Farah. He'd love to take that silver medal here tonight as Farah runs it wide. He's not going to get a good exit. And here we go down the backstretch. It is Ryan Amoyles looking to the inside for P2.
There they go, side by side in the straightaway here. It's a drag race until they go to turn 17. Amoyles goes squirrely here, coming out of the exit of turn 17, and it's another drag race here as they go into the front straightaway here, with Farah pulling ahead. And now it seems like Amoyles here got some more speed coming into turn 1. But look at Farah here going wide to take a better line, and it paid off. He is now your second place position here as they go into turn 4.
Looking solid here for Mackenzie Farah to start the final lap here at Sebring, while RC Anderson has a huge lead out in front. The battle and spotlight is on second, as once again here Ryan Amoyles and Mackenzie Farah are dueling as they work their way out of turn number 7. Amoyles had a decent run and maybe a shot at P2 going into that corner. It's not going to be as easy as we work to some of the latter sections of the racetrack. Less than half a lap to go here for Mackenzie Farah to hold on. I know Amoyles would just like to keep the nose clean, but you have to figure in the points difference from third to second is valuable. With the Formula 1 point system we've been using, that's quite a bit of insurance for Amoyles to not only take the overall win here tonight as he's poised to do so, but to set himself up very nicely for a championship run as the season goes on. They were nearly getting ready to duel, though, as your leader at RC Anderson heads down the back straightaway for the very final time.
Anderson here on the white flag here, your number 777 Ferrari here, with a 15-second gap to get Farah here, taking turn 17 one final time here in race 2, round 2. He'll sweep around the corner here underneath the underpass here. That bright red Ferrari here now on the straightaway going underneath the overpass here. RC Anderson is your winner here in race 2, round 2. Yeah, but there's still a batter here for second and third right here with Mackenzie Farah taking it, going into turn 17, coming out of it. Seems Ryan won't have enough momentum here. And Farah will take your second place with Amoyles here to finish off the podium.
Behind them, more drivers coming across the line now as we take a look here. It is a battle back for 7th, it looks like. Alejandro Arias, Franco Sabullo, I believe Tyler Delgado and Frankie Barroso in a heated 4-car battle. They're coming into the final corner. If we can just drop back, there they are. Here's Delgado running behind Sabullo, and it'll be side by side, it looks like, as Delgado runs it wide. Nearly contact there behind them, but luckily nobody ends up in the barrier. They all cross the stripe inside the top 10. And so that does it here for race number 2 at Sebring. The final few drivers going to come across the stripe to take the checkered. Bobby Ross getting on by Pecorini, it looks like, as Ross comes across the stripe in 10th. And Robert Garcia will end in 11th.
And we have Rudy here on screen here, the iRysa ringleader here, trying to finish off in 15th place here, going down one spot from his starting place of 14th. The white AMG will make a final time around turn 17 here to finish off race 2.
Trying to take a look at what happened on the final lap. There was some more controversy. Eduardo Pecorini, when he was going by Bobby Ross, stuffed it in deep. Then got down to the inside, saw he was washing out, jammed the brakes on the exit of the corner. It DQ'd himself on incident points and nearly DQ'd Bobby Ross as well. More drivers coming across the stripe here at the end. Mo Fittipaldi Jr. ending in 14th. Ross right now unofficially sits 10th. Pecorini has dropped a little further down the order. But, man, talk about just about 300 feet from the line, Anthony, trying to brake check and not lose one spot. You lose about 5, and it would have been even higher if they were further up the order.
Yeah, very unfortunate events here. That could have all went smoothly if, yeah, seems like it was just one little domino that was out of place here, and it turned down the rest of them.
Sometimes it happens like that here at Sebring, but we have seen a little bit of everything. Some great battling for the lead, some monster crashes, a restart here tonight to the racing action, and of course, a good run from Ryan Amoyles to take the overall top points from the evening here with a first and a third. RC Anderson, your point leader, coming in, does a great job to salvage what could have been a much worse evening, rebounding from his issues to finish 5th in race 1 and win race number 2. Beyond that, Anthony, it's just an absolute hornet's nest from second on back in the championship. It's going to get completely shuffled between the two differences of results from race 1 to race 2. And again, we're only on the second night of a 5-week championship. It should be exciting here to watch the rest of the season.
Think the championship points, we'll have to see and calculate them out, but I think it might stand the same way due to the drivers below Anderson here were involved in some of that race 2 incident here. But like I said, we'll never know until we calculate it all out. But that was some interesting racing here, both in race 1 with the action here and race 2. Race 2, that was actually our very first ever double file restart here in any of the RISA series here. So it's interesting to see how it played out. I think some of the drivers weren't necessarily prepared for that. Maybe they had cold tires. I think that's what happened to the Tulu here. I got to look at look at the replay there, and it seems like he actually lost the back end and ricocheted off the wall, collected Orjuelas, and as a result of that, the driver behind him was spooked out, and that spun him out as well. So it's a series of chain of events that occurred here that nothing we can do about it. That's racing, but it looks like we'll try and do our best here, both as officiators and drivers, to clean it up for race 3.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, for myself here, Anthony, it's been a blast to get to call the action here with you, bud. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting back into the booth over the next few weeks. And as you mentioned, this series is still very early in its championship. We got a lot more drivers than expected, which has been awesome. There's a few growing pains that'll come with that. But we're looking forward, of course, to calling the action, seeing everybody back here next Monday night at 8:30.
Definitely the next track will be next week, and we'll be at Road America, another favorite here amongst everybody else. Road America, definitely one of the popular choices here in terms of GT races here. So we're going to be very excited to see that coming into next week. I think we still have Rudy here. You think we have a little time here to pull him in for a post-race interview?
Hey Xander, hey Anthony.
Hey Rudy, how was it, man? What did you think of race 2?
Well, actually, I finished 13, but I think one of the problems is that the spotter is telling you keep up with cars, but you don't know which car it is because we're not seeing the car numbers. And generally, the guys were trying to keep too close to each other, so there were a lot of incidents in trying to line up with the cars in front of you, but you really did not know which is the car in front of you if you had to jump a spot or two. So I believe it was a little bit confusing for the guys, but generally I think that they were not leaving enough space between ahead of them. So if somebody brake a little bit harder, we had a lot of contact in the formation lap. So, but
Got it.
you know,
We didn't get enough time to talk to you after the first race. How was that one? That one was a little more eventful.
yeah, definitely, definitely. First race was just that turn 1 and turn 2 incident, but the second race with the restart I think was a lot tougher. But I was up there battling for 8, and then someone spun in 16, and I was focusing on what they were doing, and then I missed my turning point, and then somebody hit me. I think ninth place was behind me, and they collected me, so I had to go in for repairs. but I was running up in 8 after the restart, so it wasn't too
Got it.
bad. But I can race the young guys, but I can't match their speed unfortunately.
I just want to let you know we got a shout out for you a couple hours ago from DJ from Daniel Ochoa here saying
Oh,
go
okay,
Rudy
okay.
here in
Yeah,
the
uh,
YouTube stream here. A bunch of the family members here in the stream here shouting us all on, whether it be Frankie or Franco or Diego. Some of the people here on the list here that you might recognize: Jared, Jonathan Bruno. Let me see who else might be here. Edward Amaya. I don't know who that. Anthony ran. I think he was talking after he didn't finish the race here. Let's see. That's about it. There's apparently people here. I'm not
yeah.
sure who you recognize, but yeah.
Well, I want to
Every
thank Xander for coming on board tonight, and hopefully we'll see him for more calling more events, and just the whole team for putting this together. Again, it's been a very short time frame that we've been putting all of this together, just because of this stay-at-home order. Giving the guys something to do, but we want to continue doing this for quite some time, so we'll improve on the overall racing, I'm sure. But Sebring is always a challenge, and most tracks has that one corner or two corners that is going to challenge you, no matter how many laps you have on it. I mean, I have hundreds of laps in race cars at Sebring and race there, but I'm still fighting within the simulator, and that's just the reality of how certain tracks are. So I'm looking forward to Road America. I drove there last year. Um, in a Miata. So I'm looking forward to driving it in a faster car. So, but I want to thank you guys, Max, Jose, you, Anthony, and Sander for being our guest commentator tonight.
our pleasure, and thank you for organizing this.
Yeah, well, we're doing our best, and the cool thing is that 90+% of the people are involved with RISA in some way, either a current member of the team, an old member of the team, or what I'd like to put as an extended member of the team, like for instance, the guys who are racing from the other countries, in some way or the other connected with us, and it's pretty cool to be able to have that reach. So, I want to thank everybody for participating and you guys for doing the commentary. And I'm having some fun, and for sure. So, I want to keep doing it. I just wish Rohan would step in, and maybe we'll have a ram serve that is actually going a little bit quicker.
Some father-son action, hopefully in the future, right? Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll get to race him, but that's what is cool. I'm telling all the kids, finally I'm getting to race them. So I mean, that's the one thing with iRacing. Doesn't matter how old you are, how you can actually race other people. So it's pretty cool. I'm enjoying it, and I think a lot of people are too. So I think we have something good, and we want to continue it as a tradition. So
All
thank
right,
you guys
Rudy.
again. Okay.
All right, Rudy. Well, I don't want to hold up any more of your time, Xander. You got any words to say to Rudy before you let him go?
Not too much, man, Rudy. It's been a pleasure to get to commentate it and talk to you here tonight. It's been fun.
Well, we are doing the Monday night series and the Wednesday night series. So as soon as you're available for the Wednesday night series, which is the Miata series, that's going to be our tradition moving forward. You're
So,
welcome back. So I mean, that's going to be our Wednesday night tradition. Um, so as soon as you can tell us that you're free to call more races, we'll be glad to have you on board. Of course, we would like to have you as a driver as well, but I think you're probably more effective as a commentator.
Yikes.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ander. Thanks,
all
guys.
right,
Thanks,
man.
Max,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jose,
See you
Anthony.
there.
Okay. All right. Bye.
All right, that went quite well. So, I think we're about done here, Xander. Well, let's go ahead and get like a quick recap here. Final thoughts here. What do you think overall today is your first time on board here with the RISA series?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was great. We had an awesome turnout here at Sebring. We had upwards of nearly 30 cars for both races, which was really cool. It's great to see, the opportunity to, have the young race against the old go-karters against car racers and vice versa. And you just see all walks of motorsport that are tied together in some way or another. The Ricer Racing's family get to go head-to-head on the iRacing. That's always really cool. As for tonight's action, man, I mean, we've talked about it over and over. It was just wild stuff. And with that said, I'm really happy that I got to call it because that was some fun stuff to call start to finish. And I appreciate the invite from both Rudy and the welcoming arms of yourself and Jose here in the booth because it's been fun from my end for sure.
Yeah, anytime you're welcome here in the future. And overall, yeah, that race was pretty great. Had some different actions. It had some underdogs here. It had some comeback kids as well. You know, we have RC starting towards the mid pack here, making his way up towards the, or rather, finishing rather in the mid pack last race, and now taking it in race two. And also Mackenzie Farah here taking his GT3 debut in the Rice series, finishing it out in second here. So it's all types of different. Kinds of action here. Some positive ones like the ones I messaged, and some more unfortunate ones like the wreck we saw here in race two. But we're excited to share share that with the rest of you here from here on out. Please like and subscribe here to the channel. If you're still watching this, some plenty more action coming your way with the Miata series scheduled to air on 8:30 Wednesday night. I believe that race will be. We're going ahead and still under development. Actually, we'll get back to you on social media, and Rudy will let you know. But until then, I am Anthony here on the AsIMRacing Network. Xander.
And I'm Xander Clements.
All right, thank you everybody, and good night.